The Fox X-Men are not done, and in fact, they're coming to the MCU. And we have it confirmed that certain X-Men, like Deadpool and Wolverine, are going to be coming to the MCU via Deadpool 3, but it's actually more than that. The current rumors are that Feige wants to give a proper goodbye to the Fox X-Men characters, and he's going to focus on using them in Deadpool 3, possibly other projects, including Secret Wars, and then after Secret Wars, he will do his own version of the X-Men in the MCU 616 universe. But Kevin Feige isn't just going to bring the Fox X-Men actors into the MCU, he's actually going to fix them. Hell yeah! I think Feige wants to give fans a couple of more amazing moments with these Fox X-Men characters, but he also wants these characters to be the best version that they've ever been, the most comic booky, the most iconic. And so in this video, we're going to go through the various X-Men that I think will be brought back into the MCU and how Kevin Feige will be fixing them, making them more like the comic book version. And the perfect person to start with this list is Wolverine. This is especially cool because it's confirmed that Wolverine is coming back, but there's also a few things being said out there by Hugh Jackman himself that hint to changes they want to make to the Wolverine character. And after we go over this, we'll be able to take the examples that we more or less know Kevin Feige will be doing to the Wolverine character, and we'll be able to look at the rest of the X-Men and speculate on what he might do to change those versions of the character to be more badass and more comic booky. Okay, but let's first talk about Hugh Jackman, and the thing that's cool about this is we know for sure he's coming back for Deadpool 3, but I want to go out on a limb here and say that I believe the version of Wolverine that we will see in Deadpool 3 will also be the version of the character that we then see on Battleworld. Now, one of the main changes that's going to be happening with this version of Wolverine is that he is going to be much angrier and grumpy. This is straight from Hugh Jackman's mouth. In fact, listen to him say it right here.
Definitely the angrier, acerbic, grumpy, and he's going to take a lot of free shots at Ryan Reynolds, let me tell you. Brilliant. Physically, that is.
And I personally love this because, yeah, Wolverine, way more grumpy and angry in the comics than the Hugh Jackman version of the character. But now let's talk about the look, because insider and scooper Daniel RPK has revealed that the current plan is to have Hugh Jackman in the traditional yellow costume. And Jackman's, of course, familiar with the yellow costume, having read the comics, but also having been asked by fans for over a decade when he'll actually get in the yellow and blue or in the yellow and black. And apparently they've even done screen testing with more traditional versions of the costume, and they've even tried to replicate the Wolverine mask. But they never shot it, and Hugh Jackman said it ended up looking way too much like a Mardi Gras mask. And I'm absolutely sure that pulling off the yellow and blue costume with the mask would be a very difficult thing. It can't look goofy, it's got to work on the screen, and maybe using a combination of practical effects with some digital effects, they can get there. And I have a lot of faith that this is a big focus of Feige, is to make Wolverine in Deadpool 3 in the MCU look more like the comic book Wolverine than we've ever seen before. And so we expect a more angry and grumpy Wolverine that's taking actual shots and cutting up Deadpool. And we expect for him to be wearing a more traditional costume. And again, this really just paints the picture of the current plans for Wolverine in the MCU, or Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in the MCU, to be way more comic booky than the character has ever been before. But next up, let's talk about Storm, because Halle Berry's Storm is definitely iconic, and the rumor is they have been talking to Halle Berry about coming back to the MCU. And while there are a lot of people that want to see a different actress take the role of Storm because they want a more comic book accurate Storm, I actually think there's a way to make Halle Berry look more like Storm from the comics, sound more like Storm from the comics, and ultimately bring the nostalgia that would come with a Halle Berry Storm while also giving her a send-off that's more comic book accurate and badass than she's ever been. Now, there are a few ways to accomplish this, but the first one that came to my mind has to do with her eyes. In the Fox version of Storm, Halle Berry's eyes would be normal and then shift into being white when she tapped into her power. However, in the comic books, Storm is almost always depicted with those white eyes. Occasionally, she is depicted with bright blue eyes, but for the most part, she's got that long white hair with the crazy white eyes. It's a really iconic part of her look, and I think if the MCU makes Halle Berry Storm's eyes pure white the entire time, it will automatically evoke a more comic book accurate feeling. Now, the next thing they've got to do to make Halle Berry Storm feel more like the comics is to give her an African accent. She is of African descent in the comic books, and the accent that she has is a big part of this character. It's a big signaling that she does come from there. And Halle Berry could absolutely do this. I mean, look at a lot of the different actors that play roles in Wakanda Forever. There's a lot of them that are actually not African, but they speak with a Wakandan African accent to make the movie feel more authentic. And if a lot of the people in Wakanda Forever and in the first Black Panther movie can accomplish this, I absolutely think that Halle Berry can accomplish this as well. And to sort of tie this all together, I think you need Halle Berry Storm to have very long, pure white hair and also put her in that traditional white Storm costume with the little X-Men emblems on either side of her chest. I just really think that you add all of that together, get even a little bit of an accent in there, have the eyes be white, and you've got a way more comic accurate Storm. And Halle Berry is an incredible actress that brings a lot of physicality to the role, so I still think she would be absolutely incredible as Storm. But next up, let's talk Cyclops. James Marsden Cyclops was really cool, but he was definitely not given justice as Scotty Summers. And this is ironic because Marsden has gone on to be in a lot of different movies and shows. He's quite accomplished nowadays as an actor, perhaps even more popular than he was back then. And the one big thing that you've got to do to change Cyclops and make him more comic book accurate is to actually show what an incredible leader and tactician he is. I mean, this guy was handpicked by Charles Xavier when he was very, very young, and Charles trains him specifically to lead the X-Men. And so you have to show Marsden as Cyclops actually being a good leader, being in control of his team, and being very tactical with the way he uses the different powered people that make up the X-Men. And as far as the look goes, Marsden definitely looks the part, but the costume has to be more blue and yellow traditional, maybe even with some armor padding to really accentuate the muscles, because Cyclops is pretty freaking jacked in Marvel Comics. And I also think his I-beam case thing has to be way less bulky than it was back when they made the Fox X-Men. But with those few tweaks, oh my God, I think Marsden would kill it as Scotty Summers, and his sort of goodbye to the role and to the fans would be super iconic. A lot of people would appreciate getting an actual badass Cyclops. But now let's talk about Rogue, a character that I would absolutely love to see more of a comic book version in the MCU. And although I love the little video that Keke Palmer has recently put together and wouldn't mind her being Rogue at all, I actually do think that you could bring back Anna Paquin as Rogue and make it work. Here's a picture of Anna Paquin recently, and yeah, she's definitely older, but I think that actually works, as instead of playing a more youthful, naive Rogue that she played in a lot of the Fox X-Men movies, this could be a well put together, mature version of the character. I would change up her look and make it way more comic book traditional. All you really need is a yellow and green skin suit with a badass leather jacket. Oh, and she needs big hair. The hair needs to be big and be flowing as she flies around. And I actually liked the accent that Anna used in those old Fox X-Men movies, but it wouldn't hurt to throw in a Sugar or some other iconic Rogue line. But the big thing that would separate Rogue from the other Fox X-Men movies and the more comic book accurate MCU one that I think Feige is going to fix will have to do with her powers and how she fights. I think we all want to see post-absorbing Miss Marvel's power Rogue, the one that flies around, that can punch you through a mountain. And with the visual effects budget that Marvel Studios has and the knowledge of how her power set actually works in the comics, I think Kevin Feige could give us an incredible version of Rogue. As I said before, just fix up the look and make her fly around and beat people up like Superman, and you've automatically got a way cooler version of Rogue. And the last character that I want to talk about that I think Feige could fix is Professor X. And I do think they're going to bring Professor X back, likely for Secret Wars and maybe in Deadpool 3 as well. But I'm a little torn on if it'll be Patrick Stewart or if it'll be James McAvoy. I mean, currently there are rumors out there that James McAvoy is actually the person that's being talked to come back to the Professor X role for Secret Wars. And we've already seen in Multiverse of Madness how Kevin Feige has treated the Professor X character, making him more like the 90s X-Men cartoon version with the big yellow chair and the greenish brown suit. And I'd say you could do a similar thing with James McAvoy, tap into that same kind of visual energy and make Professor X more like the comics. But what I would really hope for is to have Professor X have some kind of a telepathic or mental battle with somebody. And this was actually something that was teased out there for Multiverse of Madness. In fact, one of the big rumors that started all the rest of the rumors actually centered around this idea that you were going to get a fight between Wanda Maximoff and Charles Xavier that happened in her mind that was going to rival visually what happened between Doctor Strange and Thanos in Infinity War. And I think something like that being done in Secret Wars with Charles Xavier putting up some crazy fight against somebody, whether that be Kang or Doctor Doom or maybe even another telepath, I just think that that would be such a badass visual scene to have for an iconic character like Charles Xavier, and it would be a sick way to say goodbye to a Fox version of the character. But there you go, guys. There's a ton of Fox X-Men that I think will be coming into the MCU and how Kevin Feige is going to fix these characters, making them more like the comic book versions. Slap a like on this video if you had a good time. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you have a chance to win the dope nerdy thing that we give away each month. This month, it's a pair of awesome Marvel Legends figures. Oh, we're also giving a set away to a lucky subscriber for our live streaming channel, which currently only has about 40,000 subscribers, so you have a much better chance of winning over there. If you're looking to watch more, why not check out this video I just dropped about new reports for Tom Holland's Spider-Man future and how that will deal with Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars.